Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Please, if you can hear me, can you indicate that you can hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
Yes, we
Can
can.
hear you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Miss Ifeyinwa Odokoro. I'm co-lecturing with Mrs. Obasi for Principles of Economics, CDL 506, and she took the first module, which was go. So we're going to move to the next module, which is price theory. I don't know if everybody has their materials from the platform. I'm sure we all have our materials, and I'm sure we've all gone through it. This class is definitely going to be very interactive. I won't be doing all the talking, and the choice, scale of preference, opportunity costs. These are the basics of
Yes.
okay. All right. So for this class we'll do, that is module 2. So like I said, this class is going to be very, very interactive. I'm not just going to be rambling up and down. So I'd like anybody, to just tell me what you understand by price theory. Have you heard about it? What do you think price theory means in your own understanding? You don't have to be 100% correct. I would need at least 3 contributions before we can dive in, just to be sure that, you've gone through your materials a little bit. I'm still waiting for an answer, please. What do you understand by price theory? If no one talks, I'm going to just call a name, and I hope the person has an answer for me. Stella Odita, what do you think price theory means in your own understanding? Does this mean nobody is reading these materials? Can Stella Odita answer me, please? You don't have to be correct. You can just say whatever you understand by price theory.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. In my own little way, I would just say price theory, probably the concept of determining price in the market. I don't know.
All right. At least it's fine.
Sorry, can I, even though I have not gone through the material,
Okay.
it has to do with the concept of how the market, the forces of demand and supply affect the prices of commodities in the economic system.
Okay. That is pretty sound. Yeah, I think you have an idea. You actually have a great idea what price theory is. So as we all know, price
I have actually not gone.
You've not what? You've not gone through the material.
As I have actually not gone through the material anyway.
But it's not something you should be proudly telling me, you know that.
What did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Every individual is interested in prices, and everyone, whether he's a consumer or a producer, is affected by rise or fall in prices. A consumer is always anxious to find out whether the goods he wants to buy has become cheaper or has gone up in terms of prices. So similarly, producer is interested in whether the prices of the products he produces and the inputs he uses have gone up or down. Also, the consumers are also willing to know whether the prices of the goods they want to purchase has gone up or down. So this relationship is literally what price theory is all about. From your material, my explanation goes, every individual is highly interested in prices. The concept of price theory is a microeconomic principle. By now, you should know microeconomics is different from macroeconomics. Macroeconomics talks about mostly the price of goods and services, the firms, and the consumers and the producers, and just generally how they handle the price points of the economic sector. Why macroeconomics is
Oh, who was that
mostly
person?
has to do with
I was trying to just even say.
um can the person mute herself, please? I can hear you. Thank you. So by now we should all know the difference between macro and microeconomics, like I was saying. So the concept of price theory is mainly a microeconomic principle, and it explains how prices are determined and the reasons for their fluctuations. It generally helps a consumer or a producer to determine the outcome of prices of any commodity in an open market. This means that it allows a consumer to find out whether the commodities he wants to buy have become cheaper or higher. And it also allows the producers to determine whether the commodity he produced and the inputs he's using to produce those goods, whether they have gone up or down. And I'm talking about their prices. So in this model, we'll have to understand ways in which the principle of price theory uses the concept of supply and demand to determine the suitable price point for a commodity. As we all know, the price of a commodity is highly affected by the concept of demand and supply. Literally, every single thing we are doing in economics has to do with supply and demand. Every single thing we talk about, the production, the distribution, the allocation of goods and services, pricing, sales, market, everything goes around concept of demand and supply. So this is like the key economics terms. So this concept also stated this concept will lead us to discuss further on consumer behavior. We need to know the different ways consumer behavior affects demand and supply, and how demand and supply consumer behavior. According to Adam Smith and some economists, they have been engaged in explaining how prices are determined and why and when they are high or low. This is literally the subject matter of price theory. And like I said before, it's also known as is a concept of microeconomics. Price theory is a major concept of microeconomics, and it is concerned with the economic behavior or the individual consumers, producers, and resource owners. It also explains the production, the allocation, the consumption, and pricing of goods and services. Yes, so this is basically what price theory is all about. Very, very simple to understand, I guess. So concept of demand and supply. Demand and supply are the main principles of governing an economy, like I said, especially in the free market economy. They are the forces that determine the economic decisions and the pricing of goods and services in a free market economy. The relationship between supply and demand results in many decisions, such as the price of an item, how many will be produced in order to allocate resources in the most effective and efficient way. And before discussing demand, what exactly do you think demand means? Like I said, every single thing every all about is just demand and supply. And every single is market is like a mechanism that brings buyers and sellers together in into a particular product or service. So to simply understand what demand is simply a term that refers to the quantity of goods and services or products people are willing and able to buy at any given price. It refers to the quantity of goods and services. Remember, quantity here is very important. And then you have to be willing and able to buy it at any given price. So it's not just about the fact that, the term demand is there. The consumer should be willing to buy of that goods or services, and the consumer should also be willing and able to afford it at that given price. With the example that is given in your module, he has the money enough to purchase the quantity he desires. Now, Michael's willingness to buy 20 boxes of chocolate explains the concept of demand. It's as simple as that. The fact that you want, say, a pair of shoes, you have the money to buy. First of all, you have a desire to own a pair of shoes. You have the money to buy it. The pair of shoes is 5,000. You don't mind it. It's 5,000 naira. You have the 5,000 naira to buy it. You're willing to buy it. You're willing to buy a pair. The whole circumstances within that feeling, the desire, the willingness and ableness to buy it is just the concept of demand. So just the mere desire of a consumer to acquire a commodity is not demand. Like I said, just the mere desire to acquire it is not demand, because you can just, have a demand, or you can just have a desire to own a laptop, but you don't have the money to purchase it. Demand hasn't taken place here. So just the desire to own it is not demand, but the desire and the willingness, and you're able to afford it at the price of the commodity is what demand is all about. So demand includes the consumer being able to afford the desired commodity. i.e., having the purchasing power. So, like I said, the willingness and being able to afford your desired commodity, which is any good you want to buy or any service you want to acquire or use. The willingness and ableness to get that commodity is what purchasing power is all about. So this can be influenced by the price of the product, because price determines to great extent the quantity of a commodity an individual is actually willing to buy at any time, because the quantity can change anytime. Prices of other goods can also affect it. Later on, we're going to discuss the different things that affect demand. So downwards, we have demand schedule, which is basically a table which shows the different quantities of a commodity, which would be bought at various prices at a particular time. So demand schedule just is a relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity of that commodity demanded. There are two types of demand schedule. We have the individual demand schedule, and we also have the market aggregate demand schedule. For individual demand schedule is a table which shows the different quantities of a commodity which a consumer would purchase at various prices at a particular time. It is also possible to compile an individual's imaginary demand schedule for a commodity. For example, in this module, we used, say, for example, this schedule below shows the demand for tins of milk for Mrs. Nelson. So, looking at the demand schedule, the demand table, for price for 100 naira price, Mrs. Nelson demanded for 30 tins of milk, and for 90 naira, Mrs. Nelson demanded for 40. For 80 naira, she demanded for 50 tins. For 70 naira, she demanded for 60 tins. For 60 naira, she demanded for 70. For 50 naira. So as you can see, the lower the price, the higher her demands for the tins of milk is. So for market demand schedule, is a table which shows the quantities of a commodity which all consumers of that commodity are willing to buy at various prices at a particular period of time. It shows the total demand of different buyers of the commodity. In theory, the demand schedule of all customers of tins of milk can be combined to represent the total market demand for tins of milk at various prices. I don't know if you're seeing the table I'm actually talking about, but if you look at your module, you should be you should be able to understand what I'm saying. So for market schedule, it's explaining the prices per week and the quantity demanded by different consumers for that week. So when the price was 100 naira for that week, Mrs. Obi demanded 30 tins of milk, Mrs. Angela demanded 60, Mrs. Daniels demanded 100. When it was 90, Mrs. Obi increased to 40, Mrs. Angela increased to 70, and Mrs. Daniels increased to 300. So obviously they have different quantities that they ordered for, which has to it can explain either because of their income, that the differences in their income, or the differences in their choice or their taste. So if Mrs. Obi is ordering for 30 tins of milk, and Angela is ordering for 60, and Daniels is ordering for 100, it could mean that they don't earn the same income, or they just have different taste for it. So different things can affect different individuals' demand. But what is very much standard and what is very key is that the more the prices of these tins of milk go down, the higher their demand, no matter their income. No matter the taste, no matter the choice, as long as the prices of these commodities are going down, their demand will definitely naturally increase. Even if it's from 1 tin of milk to 2 tins of milk, there would definitely be an increase when the prices go down, which will lead us to the law of demand. But before that, we're going to discuss demand curve. Are we all following?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So moving on to demand curve, the demand curve illustrates. All right. The demand curve illustrates the relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. The demand curve illustrates the relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. The price is represented by the vertical axis, while the quantity is represented by the horizontal axis. So in the graph, you will notice that the curve slopes downwards from left to right due to the inverse relationship between the quantity and the price demanded. That means the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, which is what I've been trying to say all this while. So it's basically the demand curve. If you're looking at your material, you should see what I'm talking about. Then moving on to supply. Having understood the concept of demand, we will now move further to the concept of supply. Supply is said to be the quantity of a commodity suppliers are willing to produce and supply to the market at a particular price within a specific time frame. So as a for demand has to do with consumers. Anybody that is going to buy or purchase anything, you are the consumer. Demand has to do with consumers, while supply has to do with producers or suppliers or manufacturers or just any word you want to use for them. Or anybody that has something to sell is automatically a supplier, or a producer if you have anything you're producing, or a manufacturer if you have stuff you're manufacturing. But supply has to do with these aspects of people. So any quantity of commodity you're willing to supply at a particular price within a specific time frame is what supply is all about. Supply can also relate to the amount of goods available to consumers depending on the price of that commodity. Supply is also a framework that can be used to analyze the behavior of producers or suppliers in an economy in relation to given quantities of goods or services which they are willing to supply to the market. So if you notice, both demand and supply, they all have two things in common, which is the quantity and the price. So if the price is constant at a particular time, supply portrays a positive relationship between prices because producers or sellers are willing to supply or sell greater quantities at greater prices. For the supply curve, the graph shows the relationship between the price of a product and quantity of product that the supplier is willing and able to offer to the market. For supply curve, the vertical axis measures the product price and the horizontal axis measures the quantity of product supplied to the market. This supply curve slope rises from upward from left to right because as the number of commodities supplied in the market increases, so will the price increase. There are, just like demand, there are different factors that influence the supply of a product, and this could be prices of the products, government policies, cost of production, etc. We'll get to that as soon as we can. So moving on to the law of demand, I mean, I've been explaining it indirectly all this while. Law of demand is simply the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. It's as simple as that. So, but from the example I gave here, Peter sells a pack of biscuits for 10 naira, for example. And at this price level, he sells about 1,000 naira per week, earning up to 4,000 naira that week. No, earning up to 4,000 naira in a month. So, however, over the last 1 week, consumer demand for Peter's pack of biscuits declined. So he decided to lower the price at 8 naira per pack. Now, the demand for the packs of biscuits increased due to the new lower price, and the quantity demanded almost doubles. So at this price level, Peter sells about 2,000 naira worth of biscuits per week, thereby earning 8,000 naira monthly. Also, if he intends to increase the price in future, his demand rate will decline. So this simple example explains the concept of law of demand, which is, like I said, the lower the price of a commodity, the higher the quantity demanded. It's just as simple as it is more like our basic, like it's just the way we live normally. If you go to the market today and you hear that all of a sudden a how do I use an example now? A Milo tin, let's say it's always 1,000 naira, and just because of, let's say, coronavirus is, we're suffering from the pandemic now, and everybody's trying to sell off their goods because nobody's going to the market anymore, and then you hear that Milo tin is now 500 naira. Of course, you will go and get at least 4 or 5 before the price increases again. That is just naturally the law of demand taking place. This law generally explains the choice of a consumer towards the demand of a commodity when the price changes. So if all factors remain constant, the higher the price of a good, the lower the quantity demanded. This is typically consumer choice behavior. For law of supply, it is just opposite of law of demand in a slight way. So let's take for instance that corn crops are very much over the course of the year. There is more corn than people would normally buy. So to reduce the excess supply, farmers need to lower the price of corn, and thus the price is reduced for everyone. This explains the law of supply, which states that the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, and the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied. So as a supplier or a producer, let's say you're supplying crayfish, and the price of crayfish, let's say you just imported crayfish, or you have it in your farm or whatever, you just have it in stock, and you get an idea that crayfish has increased from, say, 1,000 a bucket to 2,000 a bucket. Of course, you're going to bring out all the crayfish you have in your warehouse because that is the time to sell, which is just the law of supply taking place. So supply has to do with producers and demand has to do with consumers. So like I was saying earlier, the determinants of demand are caused by different things. A lot of things can cause the determinants of demand. Determinants of demand are the variables that influence the quantity of a commodity an individual consumer will buy. That's just it. It is there are those variables that influence the quantity you're willing to buy a commodity at any price. So let's look at the different or the several factors that determine the demand for a commodity. One, we have the price of the commodity, which is what I've been saying since. The price of the commodity determines how much of it will be bought. The lower the price, the greater the quantity demanded, and vice versa. This means that a consumer will buy more commodities if there is decrease in price of the commodity, and buy less if the prices goes up. Another factor could be the prices of other goods. Changes in prices of other goods may influence the demand for a good. This is applicable to goods that have close substitutes and complementary goods. I don't know if this is familiar. There are substitute goods and there are complementary goods. Substitute goods can be used in place of each other, like margarine and butter. That is correct. There is tea and coffee, Bonvita and Ovaltine. For detergents, we have Omo and say Sunlight. Goods that can be used in place of each other. So this means that the price of the substitute and the demand for the other good are related directly. So if the price of one increases, the consumer may switch over to its substitute. So that is what we mean by prices of other goods. So for example, we have Milo and Ovaltine, yeah, and say 18 of Milo is 1,000 naira and 18 of Ovaltine is 800 naira. Naturally, customers will gravitate towards Ovaltine because the price cheaper. So the customers that will be buying Milo are probably those that can afford it, either by choice or taste. But naturally, consumers go towards goods or have lower prices of Milo has affected the demand for Ovaltine. And affected, I mean it has helped to increase the demand for Ovaltine. Of other goods affect together, such as car and substitute goods are goods that um, can be used in place of each other. Now, complementary goods are goods that are used together. So we have for complementary goods, we have car and petrol. As we all know, petrol cannot do without car cannot do without petrol. So bread and butter, these items are used together naturally. Camera and film, tennis balls and rackets, there are different goods that are used together, and these are complementary goods. So a decrease in the price of one of the commodities would definitely lead to an increase in the demand for it, and also to an increase in the demand for its complement. This is because there is an inverse relationship between the price of one good and the demand for the other when goods are complements. So it's just naturally if there's an increase in the demand for butter, there will definitely be an increase in the demand for bread because they are used, together. So that's just it. For taste and fashion, this is that determines demand. Taste is what a consumer likes or prefers. Just like I was saying for the king of Milo, you know, the demand for Milo can just increase not because the price has gone down, but because that is what people love to buy. So you can go to a supermarket and there will be Milo, Ovaltine, different sorts of beverages, and you just see that Milo keeps going down every second. Probably the Milo can even be may even be the most expensive beverage on the counter, and day in day out it is selling out. That has nothing to do with price at this point. It now has to do with the taste of the consumers. So taste explains what a consumer likes or prefers. A favorable change towards a commodity increases demand, while an unfavorable change towards a commodity decreases the demand. So, for example, non-smokers will have no demand for cigarettes. Yeah. And also, a man who does not drink beer will have little or no demand for it, even if the price of beer reduces from 200 naira to 5 naira a bottle. He will still not buy it because he just does not have any need for it. The same thing with cigarettes. Some people don't even know how much they sell cigarettes because it's just not their business. So this is where taste comes in. Also vice versa, if you love to drink or you love to smoke, obviously you will buy it. Even if it is very, very expensive, you still go and buy it. So this is where taste comes in. For fashion, fashion also changes with time. The demand for certain commodities can be the reign of a particular fashion among men and women. When commodities are in vogue, there is usually a high demand for them, while the demands for commodities which are out of fashion tend to be low. Examples of these commodities are, say, a brand of shoes, or a brand of cars, or a particular hairstyle, or a particular textile materials, or even phone. For example, the iPhone, the demand for it is really high, especially in Nigeria, and obviously no matter how expensive it is, it will always be selling just because it is in vogue at the moment. So this is where taste and fashion um, there will be high and the rest of them. But immediately there's a new iPhone that comes into town, boom, the demand for it increases. So this is where the introduction of new commodities comes in. We also have consumers' income. An increase in the consumer's income increases their purchasing power. Purchasing power, like I said earlier, is your willingness and ableness to purchase a commodity. So most consumers cannot afford many expensive goods which are beyond their reach. Hence, the more they desire them, and they have no demand for them in an economic sense. But when their income changes, the pattern of demand also changes. For instance, suppose Mr. James got a promotion and he has an increase in his salary. That means Mr. James can now afford, say, more sardines at any price level. They may also decide to buy less sardines and more butter. It just depends on, now you have your income, and also depends on your taste and your fashion. An increase in income may also lead to an increase in demand of one good, but a decrease in demand for another good. That is another angle for consumers' income. So it's just like if your income increases and you afford sardines and you really loved sardines, but you just can't afford it because your income is low, so you go for butter. But immediately your income increases, now you abandon butter and go for sardines. So automatically the demand for butter will decrease and the demand for sardine increases just because your income has increased. So this is how consumers' income affects the demand. There are several factors. We have government policy. The government, plays a vital role in demand level. We also have the weather. The weather can affect your demand. For example, during rainy season, the demand for umbrellas increases, ice creams, soft drinks, raincoats, rain boots, all these things increases during rainy season. During dry season, you see the demand for, say, body oils increases because people's skins are getting drier, and just different things affect different demand, affect the quantity of demands and just demand in general. The situation also demand. So for supply, almost the same thing affects supply. In fact, the same things affect supply, but in a different manner. For example, the price of the commodity. The ultimate goal of a producer or a supplier is to maximize profits. Yeah. So the willingness of a supplier to supply higher quantities of commodities at a higher price is justified due to the profit maximization related. In other words, the higher the price of a commodity, the higher will be the quantity supplied at vice versa. Also, for price of other commodities, an increase in the prices of other commodities will make commodity whose price has not risen attractive before. So that means that the increase in the price of a particular commodity may push a producer to stop or reduce the production of other commodities and shift to the one that a higher price. For instance, a producer who found out that there is an increase in the price of liquid soaps will shift from the production of detergents to liquid soaps. Therefore, the supply of liquid soaps will increase while the supply of detergents will reduce. Production also affects supply. So changes in the price of the factor can affect your supply. So if there's an increase in the price of any factors of production, when I say factors of production, those factors or inputs a supplier or a producer uses to produce goods or services. For example, your the labor, land, different things can be your inputs. For example, a fashion designer's factors of production can be the prices he or she pays his or her tailors, the tailors' salaries, the prices of the fabrics, prices of the sewing machines, the prices of the weaving machines, the prices of the factory, whatever, the rent of the place you're using, if you're using fuel, the price of the fuel you run, all these things are your factors of production. So when the cost of production is high, it will affect the quantity the supplier is willing to, supply. And when the cost of production is low, increase. That's just it. So of technology, entry of new firms, weather conditions, all these affect supply. Do we have any questions so far? Am I making sense? Are we all following?
Yes, we are following.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Not any questions so far? Do we all understand what I've been talking about? Okay.
Yes, I understand. I want to ask a question. Okay, because the last time, the last class, we looked at the different types of markets now, where we have the command economy and the mix, and also we have the capitalism. Now, what to ask is what we are looking at now, which of them is mainly applicable? Is it applicable to all the types of economy we have, or is it just for capitalism? Or can we apply these rules to all of them? Because I actually want to ask the last time concerning means, because we're looking at what are the things, who to produce for, what to produce, So I want to ask, is this still economic specific, or it cuts across the economy?
Demand and supply is general in all economics markets, really. There's no market that we pass by demand and supply. It's concept of economics. It is the basics of economics. It applies in all markets. It applies in free markets. It's socialism. It's all there. It may come out. It may apply in different concepts. May not be exactly said.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does apply. Capitalism is also referred to as free market economy. Yeah, so it definitely applies there.
So for a command economy, can I decide, okay, this is I have the money, so I want to buy 1,000 pieces of maybe pig milk? Will it be regulated? Will the government tell me no? I have to buy maybe regulated enough the quantity, kind of. That's the question.
Come again, I didn't get that. Hello. Yeah, can you take the question again?
So the question, what I asked is, does it mean that, okay, in a command economy, which is the socialism, if I have,
It's also a system where the government make the decisions, right?
yes,
Yeah. So the government determine what goods should be produced, how much should be produced, and the price at which the goods are offered for sale. They also determine our investments and income and all that. So go back to what I was saying, under the factors that determine supply and the factors that determines demand. Government policy is also there. I just did it for that. So government policies, yes, definitely affects demand and supply. Yeah. For supply, just as government affects demand, the same factor supply. When a government discourages the consumption of a particular commodity, yeah, producers tend to reduce the production rate, thereby reducing the supply rate, and vice versa. So to increase the supply of a commodity, the government may grant subsidies on raw materials, or they may decide to reduce the tax or exempt the tax producers of such products. They can also reduce the cost of production by attracting new producers into the market, or encourage the level of supply by the producers. The increment of taxes or outright ban will negatively affect the supply of a product. So government policies, which happens to be command economy, like you said, can affect demand and supply. But does demand and supply does it exists in a government, in a command economy, hell yeah. But yeah, government policies can definitely affect the demand of a commodity or the supply of a commodity. Just said.
Thank you very much.
Do you understand? Did I answer your question?
Very well.
Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions? The economy is said to be at equilibrium when the supply and demand are equal. That is, when the supply function and demand function intersect. Equilibrium in the market occurs where there is a balance between the price and the quantity demanded by buyers and the price and quantity offered by suppliers. So at this juncture, in economic terms, we can say that efficient allocation has been achieved because the amount of goods being supplied is exactly as the same as the amount of goods that the consumers or customers are demanding. In other words, consumers will get all the goods that they're demanding, and suppliers will also sell all the goods they have produced. If we look at the equilibrium curve, you will see that it's a point where the supply and the demand meets at a particular price and at a particular quantity. That point is what, you know, equilibrium is all about, where the demand and supply meets. So according to the chart we have here, showing both demand and supply equilibrium with price P and quantity Q is the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So in this curve, both buyers and sellers are willing to exchange the quantity for the price available. At this point, supply and demand is in balance or in equilibrium. So at a low price, the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. At a low price, the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. This is because the producer is unwilling to supply the quantity demanded, which will result to a product shortage. So in order to obtain the products, consumers will be willing to pay higher prices, which will increase the price. So when the price is high, the quantity supplied will be more, thereby leading to surplus in the market. So in this market situation now, producers would have to lower their prices in order to eliminate the excess supplies in the market. So on the other hand, consumers will be willing to spend more at prices. So at this rate, prices will fall until supply and demand are in equilibrium, are equal. So the table below will further explain what I'm trying to talk about. Say from the table here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prices. Yeah, 10 naira, 8 naira, 6 naira, 4 naira, and 2 naira. So at price 10 naira, the quantity demanded is are 30 units, and the quantity supplied are 200 units. And at price 8 naira, the quantity demanded increased to 50 units and it reduced for quantity supplied at 150 units. Notice the difference. For price 6 naira, the quantity demanded increased to 100 units and the quantity supplied reduced to 100 units. Yeah. At price 4 naira, the quantity demanded increased again to 150 units and the quantity supplied reduced to 50 units. Then at price 2 naira, the quantity demanded increased to 200 units and it further reduced for quantity supplied at 30 units. Now with this illustration, at what price is the market at equilibrium? I will need an answer for that, please.
At 6 naira.
Wait.
At 6.
Okay. So that basically is equilibrium price. So from the table, the equilibrium price is 6 and the equilibrium quantity is or 100 units. That is where units of demand are equal to units of supply. So when the price is above equilibrium price, the supply will increase, leading to excess supply of 100 units of the products because the consumers can only demand for 50 units supplied, which is at price 8 naira. But when the price is below the equilibrium price, there will be excess demand of 170 units of the product because the price is low and people are willing to spend and buy more products that are at price 2 naira. Yeah, so that explains that. We have change in demand and change on quantity demanded, change in supply and quantity supplied, and types of demand, types of okay. You've not of us are working class, and I know most of us are working from home at the moment, and because this is distance learning, that is why we have what's it called? Written the materials, we prepared the materials long before the course, the whole school even started, and the reason for that is for you guys to go through it. Basically, what I'm supposed to be doing right now is answering your questions. Like, you're supposed to have read everything, then you come to me with what you don't understand. Because it is just not possible for us to finish everything word to word, module to module, units to units. We've tried our best. The material is explained in a way like it's as if you're actually getting, lectured already with the materials. I'm literally reading out, what I've typed. So you guys are meant to have gone really far in your module. You're supposed to have read through and you're supposed to be taking your questions. So I will allow you guys to, because This is 1 hour gone already, and I'm supposed to be rounding off. So you guys are supposed to please read up, come, and the questions are going to be pulled from every sector side of this course. There's no topic that is going to be left untouched. So you have to read everything, every single thing, and you have to understand it. And in our next class, I would like to get questions from what you have read. Please, our next topic should be change in demand and change of quantity demands, and then consumer behavior. And we'll be taking that tomorrow. I don't know, I'll have to confirm the be able to round off this particular module with me so that you can take the next module with Mrs. Obasin. So please, wouldn't be doing so much talking in the next class. I would like to hear that you've read everything, you're coming to me with your question. You should be doing more of reading and preparing, because when everything is over, it will be exam time, and by then you'll be taking on a West. So I hope so far you have at least on concept of demand and supply is the concept of price theory. With all these explanations, the rest of the units should be like bread and butter to you. It is extremely self-explanatory. So you guys should read up, and we'll continue in our next class.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma. Good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.